I'm 88 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the truths that matter most are the ones you don't see coming. My name is Robert, and I've spent most of my life believing I had time to figure things out later. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about a lot of things. When I was younger, I thought wisdom came from books, from degrees, from knowing the right people and saying the right things at the right time. I collected achievements like they were proof I understood how life worked. I had a good career, a corner office by the time I was 42, a house that impressed the neighbors. I thought I was doing everything right. But standing here now, looking back across all those years, I realized the 5 things that actually mattered most are the ones nobody warned me about. Or maybe they did, and I just wasn't ready to listen. The first thing I wish I'd understood sooner is that people don't wait for you to be ready to love them. I learned this on a Tuesday afternoon in March, 37 years ago. My daughter Sarah was 11, and she'd asked me that morning if I could come to her school play that evening. She was playing a tree in some production about the seasons, not the lead role, just a tree. I remember laughing a little when she told me, not meanly, but in that way you do when something strikes you as charming but not particularly important. I told her I'd try to make it, but I had a client dinner that night, a big one, the kind that could lead to a promotion. She said, okay, the way kids do when they're trying not to show disappointment. I went to that dinner. I closed the deal. I got the promotion 3 months later, and Sarah never asked me to come to another school event again, not once. She stopped asking, and I told myself it was because she was getting older, more independent, that it was natural for kids to pull away from their parents. But that wasn't it at all. She'd pulled away because I taught her that asking was pointless. I taught her that other things mattered more. She's 53 now, lives 2 states away. We talk on holidays. She's polite, even warm sometimes. But there's a distance between us that I put there myself, one missed moment at a time. The thing about love is that it asks for you when it asks for you, not when your calendar clears up, not when you've finished impressing people who won't remember your name in 5 years. It asks for you in the small moments, the ordinary Tuesday afternoons when your daughter is a tree in a school play. And if you say no enough times, eventually it stops asking. The second thing I wish someone had told me is that ambition will take everything you give it and still tell you it's not enough. I spent 43 years climbing, always focused on the next rung, the next title, the next salary bump. I missed my son's first steps because I was on a business trip to Chicago. I missed my 20th wedding anniversary because I had to fly to a conference in San Francisco. I missed my father's last birthday before he died because I was closing a merger that seemed critical at the time. I can't remember the details of that merger now. I can't remember the client's name, but I remember the phone call from my mother 3 weeks later telling me Dad was gone, and the way her voice broke when she said he'd asked for me the night before he passed. The moment I understood this truth completely was the day I retired. I was 67. They threw me a party in the conference room, the one with the view of the city I'd spent so many late nights staring at. People gave speeches, they gave me a watch. And then I went home and the phone didn't ring. Nobody needed me for anything. The projects I'd sacrificed so much for kept going without me, handled by someone younger who probably worked just as hard and would eventually be just as forgotten. All those hours I traded for achievement had bought me exactly this: a watch and a quiet house, and the knowledge that I'd spent the best years of my life chasing something that never loved me back. I'm not saying ambition is wrong. I'm saying it's a poor substitute for the things that actually matter, and it's very good at convincing you otherwise until it's too late to choose differently. The third thing is this: pride costs more than you think you're paying. I learned this the hard way, in the middle of an argument I barely remember now. My wife Margaret and I were married for 41 years. 41 years of building a life together, of raising 2 kids, of weathering every storm that came our way. But in year 38, we hit something we couldn't weather. It started small, the way these things do. A disagreement about money, about whether we should help our son with his business or let him figure it out on his own. I said no. She said yes. It escalated. We both said things we didn't mean, and then we said things we did mean but shouldn't have said out loud. The fight lasted 2 days. On the 3rd day, she apologized. She said she was sorry for raising her voice, for saying I didn't care about our son's future, for letting things get so heated. She said it quietly, standing in the kitchen doorway while I read the paper, and she waited for me to say something back. I could have apologized too. I could have admitted I'd been just as wrong, just as hurtful, but I didn't. I kept my eyes on the paper and said something like, "It's fine," without looking up, because in that moment, admitting I was wrong felt like losing, and I'd spent my whole life learning how not to lose. She walked away. We never talked about it again. And 3 years later, when the cancer came, when we had 7 months left together, and every conversation suddenly mattered more than it ever had before, that moment stood between us like a wall I'd built myself. I held her hand in the hospital and I told her I was sorry, finally, for all of it. She smiled and said she knew, but I could see in her eyes that some apologies come too late to repair what they broke. Pride makes you think that holding your ground is the same as being strong. It makes you think that admitting fault is weakness. But real strength is knowing when to put down your armor, especially with the people you love. Real strength is saying, "I was wrong when you were wrong," not years later when it's the only thing left to say. The fourth thing I wish I'd known is that the people you love won't always be there to reconcile with later. This one seems obvious when you say it out loud, but somehow I never really believed it until it was true. I had a best friend named Thomas. We met in college, roomed together for 3 years, stood up at each other's weddings for 25 years. We talked every week, sometimes every day. We had the kind of friendship where you don't have to explain yourself, where silence is comfortable and honesty is assumed. Then we had a falling out over something stupid. I don't even remember what started it. I think it was something about money I'd loaned him that he'd paid back late, or maybe it was advice I gave about his marriage that he didn't want to hear. Whatever it was, it felt important at the time. We both got angry. I told him he was being irresponsible. He told me I was being self-righteous. We stopped calling each other. I kept thinking I'd reach out eventually, once we'd both cooled down. Once enough time had passed that the whole thing would seem silly. I thought we had all the time in the world to fix it. And then one morning, 2 years after our last conversation, I got a call from his wife. Thomas had died the night before, heart attack. He was 63 years old. She was calling to let me know about the funeral. I went to that funeral and I stood in the back because I didn't feel like I had the right to stand anywhere else. I watched his kids give eulogies. I watched his wife cry, and I thought about all the conversations we'd never have, all the times I'd almost called and then didn't, all the ways I'd convinced myself there was still time to make things right. You think people will wait. You think there will always be another chance to say the things you need to say, to fix what's broken, to show up when it matters. But that's not how it works. Sometimes people leave before you're ready, and you have to live with whatever you left unsaid. The fifth thing, the last thing I wish someone had told me, is that what matters in the end isn't what you achieved or what you owned or how many people knew your name. It's the moments when you were fully present with someone you loved, when you chose connection over everything else pulling at you. It's the Tuesday afternoons and the quiet mornings and the ordinary conversations that felt like nothing at the time but turned out to be everything. I understood this completely about 3 months ago. I was sitting in my living room, same room where Margaret and I used to have coffee together on Sunday mornings, and my granddaughter came to visit. She's 16. She asked if I wanted to watch a movie with her, something I'd probably never heard of, and my first instinct was to say no. I had things to do. I had emails to answer, bills to look at, a doctor's appointment to schedule, all the small tasks that fill up a day when you're trying not to think about how quiet the house is. But then I remembered Sarah's school play. I remembered Thomas's funeral. I remembered the watch they gave me when I retired, sitting in a drawer upstairs somewhere, probably stopped working by now. And I said yes. We watched the movie. I didn't understand half of it, but I understood that she wanted to share it with me, and that was enough. Afterward, we talked for 2 hours. She told me about school, about a boy she liked, about her worries and her dreams and all the things teenagers think about when they're trying to figure out who they're going to be. When she left, she hugged me at the door and said, "I love you, Grandpa," and I realized that moment, that ordinary Saturday afternoon watching a movie I didn't care about, mattered more than most of the things I'd spent my life chasing. It mattered because I was there for it. I was present. I chose her over everything else. If you're watching this and you're young, younger than I am now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you have time. You're thinking you'll make these choices later, after you've achieved what you need to achieve, after you've proven what you need to prove, after everything else settles down. But it doesn't settle down. There's always another goal, another deadline, another reason to say not now, later. The truth nobody tells you is that later doesn't wait. Later is what you call the pile of moments you're missing right now. Later is where relationships go to die quietly while you're busy with things that won't matter in 10 years. Later is the place where love waits until it gets tired of waiting. I'm 88 years old. I've lived long enough to see what lasts and what doesn't. The career I built doesn't visit me on weekends. The money I made doesn't call to check if I'm okay. The achievements I fought for don't sit with me in this quiet house and help the time pass. What lasts is the people you loved and how you made them feel. What lasts is the moments you showed up when showing up mattered. What lasts is what you chose when you had to choose between being successful and being present. I can't go back. I can't redo the Tuesday afternoon. I missed Sarah's play. I can't apologize to Thomas. I can't hold Margaret's hand one more time and tell her I should have said sorry sooner. All I can do is tell you this and hope that maybe you'll hear it differently than I would have at your age. The things you think you'll do later, do them now. The people you think will always be there, love them now. The moments that seem small and ordinary and easy to postpone, those are the ones you'll remember when everything else fades. That's what I wish someone had told me before it was too late. Not because it would have changed who I became, but because it might have changed what I chose along the way. And in the end, what you choose is all you really have.